So I assume that you two are, it's like this a two-person studio then. Maybe like with some of your other projects, like we'll get onto, you might have had like, part-time help or contractors or whatever. But predominantly a two-person studio. And was that always the case from the very beginning when you guys formed? I mean, your first game released, Helltown in 2017. Which I assume you formed before that. You didn't just form and immediately birth a game straight away. So yeah, tell me about how you guys came together. And yeah, was there anybody else, or was it always just you two?
Yeah, well, at first it was us two.
Hmm.
We started L-Town while we were studying, and we self-published it by the end of our studies.
Hmm.
Um, so we both knew each other in high school, and we kind of followed the same academic path in university and everything. And we really wanted to make a game together. So I think I pitched Helltown. I showed you like a model of a creepy town folk, and you were like, "Oh yeah, that's cool." And then we just like started the project.
Man, it's been years.
Yeah, it's been a long time. Um, and then we'll talk a bit more in details about it later. But when we actually got the funds to make Born of Bread, we hired two other people full time. Um, and unfortunately, in late 2024, we had to let them go because
Yeah.
for the state of the industry, the game
Yeah.
release, and everything was just not sustainable.
Yeah.
So we're back at just us two.
What did you guys study, if you don't mind me asking? University.
3D yeah, 3D animation
Game design.
and game design.
Game development is,
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
it's a proper term.
Because here in Quebec, we've got like high school, then something called Cégep, which is just before university. You spend like
Couple of
2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
That part was 3D animation, and then in university it was specifically game development.
Okay, no, that makes sense. I guess that it makes it, 'cause, yeah, like I assume Canada and UK probably have more in common than Canada and US in terms of like structure with schools.
Nowadays.
Yeah, well, yeah, but we have something yeah, very similar. We have high school until we're 16, and then we have college, which confuses Americans, until 18, and then we have university from 18 onwards. Yeah, I did something
Yeah.
very similar. It was just called a game design course, in which there was no game design taught. It was just game art and game programming, which is very peculiar. But yeah, no, it sounds like we went sort of like around a similar path. So I would really like to talk about, yeah, just the overall history of the studio, because from an outsider looking in, it seems like a really insane journey that you guys went on, like sort of yeah, a peculiar one, and more so in terms of like where you've ended up. So yeah, to paint a picture, you released your first game, Helltown, in 2017, which we can talk about in more detail. And then 6 years later, you released Born of Bread. Firstly, to go back to Helltown, we can talk about what the game is and what the development was like, but also I want to lead into what was the release of your first game like. There's something which I didn't know, which is you developed it during your studies. Was there also was there opportunities during your studies to work on it? Did it start out as like a because on my course we did like game jams, which would often lead into games being released and that sort of thing. So yeah, we'll start off with the development of Helltown and then leading to the release of it.
Mhm. Well, Elton was like an extracurricular activity. Was like really on the side. So it took like a couple of years since like we focused on our studies first. Then like when we had time, we worked on Helltown. We didn't have really any like big expectations when we released it. We were really hoping that some of our favorite content creators would pick up. Like I remember a YouTuber named Mr. Craven like picked it up like a couple hours after release, and we were like super excited. Um, and it was our first game, So there was like a lot of rough edges, both technically and design-wise. So I'm like really happy that in 2024 we managed to like make a free update to polish, round off everything, and like bring it closer to what we originally envisioned the game to be. So it was our first project. We weren't like.
Was it always meant
super-
to launch a studio, or was it more in your mind as like a portfolio piece at first?
It was more a portfolio piece, I think. It was on. We knew we wanted to have our studio make games full time, but I don't think like we were expecting this to launch our career solo. Like it was like, we knew we had to like find a real job, and we're expecting like during a couple of years to make games part-time. We weren't like expecting like to go full-time with Helltown.
Yeah. And I always like asking this, who pressed the button to launch it on Steam? Out of the two of you?
God.
I think we were. I remember keenly the moment the game went live. We were at my place, and I'm pretty sure we clicked the button. Probably him pressed the button on the computer, but I remember it keenly because we walked. We like going on long walks to talk and stuff. So we went outside and we started walking, and then we saw our phone like going up because we were checking like what was happening with the launch, and we saw like immediately, achievements are broken. I was like, holy crap, I forgot something, and then we came back like power walking, fixed everything real quick. Okay, good.
Incredible. That is crazy. Yeah, usually when I ask, developers often say that they just don't remember it all. Like they hit the button and then they just amnesia immediately. But yeah, I can imagine running home, probably in the cold, being in Canada, trying not to slip. Yeah, being quite memorable. So after Helltown launched, one thing which intrigued me so much. I mean, it's, again, especially given the information that we have now of the time from Born of Bread to Kaput Mortem, and then to what looks like your next game releasing very quickly afterwards. There was a 6-year gap, and I'd just love to know more about, first of all, why there was a 6-year gap. What was that like? And yeah, also to go from a very, very small horror game to a giant cutesy JRPG, well, turn-based RPG, is insane. So I just would love to hear everything that you have information-wise on that.
So like the 6-year gap is basically us like graduating university and then finding a job on the workplace, the quote unquote real job.
Yeah, getting a real job.
And then we built we saved money in that time. We moved into an apartment and worked on the very first demo for Born of Bread, which was like a proof of concept vertical slice thing. We worked that during our free time, which took a while because we didn't have a lot of it.
Yeah.
Then I think we got approached by a few publishers when the game started getting traction with the demo. And then a couple of months later, we signed with Dear Villagers, and we then had the opportunity to work full time on it. So that whole process was the 6 years.
Yeah.
And the difference between the scope of Helltown and Born of Bread was like both big ambitions and naivete too. Like at that time we didn't really acknowledge the amount of work that project would require. Like we thought we knew,
Yeah,
but it
I've seen
really
it.
wasn't the case.
Yeah, I've seen it plenty of times before. Whether it's in like my current job now or previous jobs, where there seems to be this preconception that turn-based RPGs are despite being quite long, surprisingly simple because it's just the same combat with different enemy types, and you could just like put a bunch of those encounters around on the map and then you're done. But it is definitely not that at all. So yeah, well, so you got the publisher. So from when you got first of all, it's almost alien at this point for publishers to hear that publishers approached developers because that would have been during COVID times that you got approached.
Pre-COVID.
Yeah,
Pre-COVID, yeah. So
it was, yeah.
yeah, so that was. I mean, it's weird. It's always weird to think about that. COVID seemed to be like awful for everyone, but super healthy for the games industry. But yeah, even pre-COVID as well, like this in a completely different state now. But yeah, the game released the end of 2023, so you would have got signed, I assume, either in 2019 or very early 2020 then. So from when you got signed, it was about a 3-year development window with a team of 4. I imagine. Well, like also you'll have like either people working at their villages who did localization or whatever. Like, I assume your credits as soon as you get signed to a publisher, the credits balloons massively. But it was core development team of 4. So yeah, it's interesting because the Born of Bread was such a wildly different game to the game before and the games after. You talked about how it being like maybe over ambition or naivety when it comes to choosing when it comes to the scope. But what was the decision to the design decision to choose to go for a turn-based game? Like was there certain inspirations? Because not only like going for a turn-based game is an intense decision, it might not be the right word, but with the context of making a horror game beforehand, it's just interesting to hear about why you chose to go down that path.
Yeah, well, first and foremost, we both really enjoy horror and cartoony stuff. It's like both opposites we love, and after Helltown, I think we just organically felt like making something more cartoony, more cutesy. And I think while we were brainstorming ideas, Nick came up with like, hey, have you ever played Paper Mario? Yeah, it's great, it's awesome. Let me show you. And that was like the first time I actually like played these games. I knew of them before, but then I was like, yeah, man, they're great. Let's make something like that. And I think you can like tell a bit more with that.
Yeah, because I played Paper Mario 1 back when it came out. I have 2 older brothers, and they basically played for me, played with me, and I really enjoyed the games. I liked the music, I liked the style, and then once the second one came out, I was a bit older and I could more like grasp the mechanics more and play for real.
Yeah.
And it just left such an impression on me. It's the characters, the combat. I really love every single aspect of that game because from like a story that's not too serious but still has some meat on it, and the mechanics that can be really simple but also have their own complexity. It's just really satisfying to play, and I really wanted to inject some of that feeling into Born of Bread, and I think we pretty much succeeded on that front for sure.
Yeah, and as like first time devs at the time, I think we also like were really influenced by success stories like Undertale or other like big indies like that. You know, when you're not like we've made so much, like we've grown so much, we've learned so much that like we have a way better view and grasp of like the indie scene. But when you're like fresh out of university and you don't like keep track of like nowadays you have like Chris Sukowski, who makes like a ton of videos about like indie game marketing, and other creators like yourself, and people have way more tools and knowledge, like insider knowledge of how everything works, especially on Steam. At the time, we didn't really have that, whether we didn't find it or we didn't knew it. So we were like, oh yeah, Undertale's great. We can also make Undertale.
Yeah, your vision is just so narrow when you start out. You just don't know like what a proper success is. You don't know what's big traction and what's like no traction at all. And it's kind of hard to like wrap your head around it. Really, it's crazy.
Yeah, and this is an interesting point actually, because this is something which you could answer or not answer. It's just something which I'm really curious about with regards to having a publisher, because another side to it is to getting a publisher, other than the money, which is great, is the support which they give you. Did you have support, and how did you react and deal with and utilize support, such as like being able to do user testing, or did they have like in-house like producers or designers which could support you? What was that like?
They had in-house producers. They were really helpful.
Yeah.
They were really hands-off too, which I think we really appreciated.
Yeah.
Later down development, when like we had a couple delays and things were rougher, they like gave us their opinion on like, we cut a whole chapter because it was just not feasible. Like, but game design wise, they had an awesome team of QA. They gave us their opinions, and we picked and choose what we wanted to address and not. And
QA is the unsung heroes of game development.
Yeah.
Every time we have an interaction with QA, I'm always leaving a smile and a thank you every single step of the way, because man, these people just like play thoroughly, and without them, we couldn't work at all.
Yeah.
But yeah, working with a publisher is just it makes a lot of the stuff way more easy. Like some of the marketing beats, they help with that. They also give feedback on stuff. Especially our experience with publishers. Rarely do we have anything bad to say. It's just I don't know. Maybe we got lucky, but people just want to help, and it shows.
Yeah, I mean that should be how the way it works, really, because the publishers, from a purely business standpoint, they give you money, so they make money, and so they want to try and help you guys make the best game possible. And yeah, just to on QA, like that's the thing as well. Like for the vast majority of QA teams, their job description is to find bugs, to provide the description, to repo them, and then to close them. But they do so much more so often. They can be so passionate and really help the game. So yeah. So carrying on with the timeline, after Born of Bread, we then had the release of Kaput Mortem in just under 2 years after. So I assume from what you said before, one of the key differences here is the fact that you guys probably worked close to, if not full time, on Kaput Mortem of development after Born of Bread. But outside of that, what was the main difference between Born of Bread and Helltown, which led to such a quick development cycle of Kaput Mortem?
Yeah, well, you talked about a crazy story. Like, 2024 was the absolute like craziest and, might I say, worst year of our lives, most likely. Because it's not a secret to anyone that like Born of Bread has like a couple of technical issues. There's bugs we didn't manage to like fully iron out, and we crunched like crazy people on that game towards the end, and also on the months after, to fix all the major bugs and things we managed to that people reported.
Another big thing is Gab and I, like when we hired like 2 other people. One of the big things about when we decided to hire staff, we did not want to make anyone crunch ever. So that meant that me and Gab would do what basically I think it's called heroics. You just like work all the time to prevent other people from crunching. So you're just crunching all the time, and that was like such a crazy like the Born of Bread. Like we tried hard so much. I remember we would go weeks without any like break. Like the weekends we would work, and then we would work Monday through, and then just to hit the milestones properly and make sure everything was a-okay with the publisher and stuff, just so people wouldn't crunch, and it really took a toll on us both.
Immediately after we finished the patch, the final patch, we were like, all right, we need to pitch a new project in order to keep the studio afloat. And the first one we didn't, like it was, we decided to, sorry. The first one was another really ambitious game. And like like 1 or 2 months in, we realized like that wasn't the way. We needed to like shift gear. So then we pitched Death Deck Heroes, which was like a Born of Bread spin-off. It was a kind of quirky deck builder, which was like, it was at the peak of the deck builder craze. Yeah. So like nobody wanted it. So then we were like, all right, let's try and make an update to Helltown. So we did that, but hindsight 2020, a game that's like 7 years old on Steam won't get pushed at all by the algorithm. Yeah. So while people played the update, really liked it, it didn't get any traction. So we're like, all right, next pitch, which was Hell Drive, a kind of a 4-player co-op driving
car survival.
Yeah, car survival horror game, which the pitches didn't get anywhere either. And but at that time we unfortunately let go of our 2 friends. Yep. So then 2025 starts. We were both having a really rough time, and me personally, creatively, I was like in a really bad spot. So I figured like, whatever, I'll just make something I want to make.
Your arms were shot also.
Yeah, there was a couple of physical issues too. So I started working on Caput Mortem. I show it to Nick. He thinks it's really cool. So then we spend the next 8 months on it, and we release it with the help of Black Lantern, our publisher on Caput Mortem. And now we're working on Fright Train.
Yeah.
So that's like the whole story of like 2024, which is huge.
The dev cycle for Caput Mortem is actually even shorter than you once thought.
Yeah, it is. That is insane. I was getting stressed listening to you hit about the story. No, but it is a sad thing. I was speaking to someone the other day about this. It is not the exception anymore. It's kind of like the rule where the next step for a development team, usually an indie development team or even in AA, after they ship a game, is to pitch the next game. It's not to use the funds of the previous game because of the way the publisher deals work to decrease risk and all that sort of thing. So it sounds like a difficult time. It's a lot that I think a lot of people go through and maybe don't realize when they're starting out. So now that we've gone through the history of WildArts Games up until the release of Caput Mortem, I think one of the things which is obviously the most interesting about you guys is that your games, first of all, look like incredibly wacky, I think is the right word. But also one thing which I noticed with Caput Mortem is the focus on having a unique idea as the core foundation. And I've also noticed it from what I've seen anyway, from GIFs and clips in Fright Train. And so specifically about Caput Mortem, I want to talk about the input mechanic, being that you can either control the camera or it was hold middle mouse, I believe, and then you can control the arm. And I just want to know about what was the initial thought process behind that.
Yeah. So as I said, that was like a personal passion project that it started as. And at the time, I was watching, I think Lobos Jr. play Arts Fatalis, and I was aware of like the Kingsfield series, and I figured like I want to try that, and I tried Kingsfield 4, and the controls of those games are like notoriously really wacky. And while like playing through the first bit of the game, I was like having such weird controls really puts the player in a place where they have to be super aware of what they're doing. And I figure that like in a horror game, most people blast through,
Yep.
There's like, oh, okay, I'm going through the corridor, I'm going through the room. It's like go super fast. And by putting a break on that, I figured that was a great way to make players really notice the environment, really like take in the atmosphere, and would also make encounters really stressful because you don't have the muscle memory anymore of like, I just turn my mouse around and I go away. You can do that. You need. Oh yeah, I remember that.
Is it up or down or?
Yeah. And the hand mechanic actually came after that reflection, where like, well, what does the right joystick do anymore? And I figured like the movement felt like moving a hand, so why not try and like using your hand to interact instead of just having a cursor that you press A on.
Yeah.
That was the starting off point, and I have a weird fascination with alchemy from time to time. And also that was the start of the whole where Gen AI was like really becoming like a known issue, and we both have like really strong feelings about that. And I really wanted to make like a kind of allegory game about what it means to be a human faced against that new technology. And that was like a great metaphor between like an alchemist that makes a homunculi and teaches it to be a human, but at what end?
Yeah.
And like what we were seeing play out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that is really interesting. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a lot more games with that sort of narrative. I mean, we've had like decades of media warning us of the times that we're in right now, and yeah, we all seem to be ignoring it. But yeah, so that's the input for me is something which is also really interesting in terms of sort of like speaking to another shift in the industry, which I've really noticed probably since subscription services like Game Pass, PlayStation Plus became a thing, like really where friction is seen as like the enemy. Players want it's I don't like saying it because it's something which like a CEO on a stage who's waving their arms would say, is that the people want lean back entertainment, not lean forward entertainment. And so I always find it really interesting when developers like dive headfirst into causing friction in particular ways, because friction's great. Friction is what players want, even if they think that they don't want it. They just want it in their particular way. And I think it did an incredible job at doing exactly what you said, where, just in the opening area, I think before I even got to the first tower when I initially played the demo, I spent probably more time per square meter per second just looking around and experiencing it. And as well, like just in terms of the art, there seems to be, I don't know what would have started this. It wouldn't have been Lethal Company, that would have been earlier, but this sort of return to not necessarily PSX but even like PS1 style graphics. Was that something that was an aesthetic choice? Was it a production choice? Was it a bit of both? Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was a bit of both. Because I'm now 30, so I have a lot of nostalgia for like GameCube era games, and that sort of like middle ground between PS1 graphics and PBR rendering that every game uses nowadays. And it was also just like a fun challenge, like how close can I make the game look like one of those games?
Yeah.
So like I researched, I used like vertex lighting instead of just using real lights, which was a pain in the ass by the end. But I'm like really happy with like the result.
Yeah.
And I'm sure like someone with like more technical knowledge of like they that can make tools could like have made a workflow really cool, but I don't. So
Well, that's the thing as well. Like one thing which I got from the game, people assume that because it looks to use like the general like average person's term, it looks worse, so it's easier. Is not the case, and the way people have gotten around that is they just follow a tutorial on Unreal on how to implement post-processing or a filter, which just makes everything look like that. Where you could tell with Kaput Mortem, it was handcrafted in a way which was supposed to emulate that it was trying to emulate, which I really appreciated. So, moving on to the next question that I have. As well as Kaput Mortem, from my perspective, which was mainly again from Blue Sky, Fright Train seems to have doubled down on the point of friction as a key pillar. Maybe not necessarily in the same way, but again, this could be where I'm completely wrong here. But something which I've noticed that you've highlighted a bit or has been present in a lot of your clips is to do with the inventory system, and so. This is obviously a game which is not out yet, a game which you're working on. You can talk about as much or little as you want. But I was just interested in just your ideas, maybe after Kaput Mortem came out. Like, hey, well, first of all, how did you go about coming up with the idea of Fright Train? And maybe if you want to talk about some of the individual systems, you can. Yeah, I'd just be interested in knowing more about that.
Yeah. Well, okay, so for coming up with game ideas, generally speaking, it's usually one of us that comes up with like, oh, we could do alchemy, or we could do the train stuff, or something like that, and then we go on walks. Like we go on walks all the time. It's one of the perks of living together is that we can just do that. Like once we're done with lunch, we can just go take a walk. And
walk and talk.
Walk and talk, yeah. And it's great for coming up with ideas. Like you just keep talking and then you develop the idea, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, and then you see like really clearly where the friction points are. Like when I propose something or he proposes something, and then I just say, oh, what do you do about this? And then that time it takes for like coming up with an answer tells us a lot. Like if you're just like already like, I don't know, that means like it's not good.
Yeah.
I see game design as it's a lot like gardening. Like I'm a gardener a lot. I love to go having a garden and entertaining it or whatever. And it's really a lot like that. You come up with a seed, and it's just an idea, and it needs to be like a great idea that will grow into something good. You can set up the fertilizer, water it, do everything you need to do, and once the seed is planted, you just gotta let it grow. And then once the idea like stems up, it branches out into all these different mechanics, and they just grow from themselves. Once you're just like at a certain point, it comes naturally. Like of course it's the natural progression. Of course these three mechanics come together to make something. It's just natural, and it's kind of beautiful. Like we're at that point in Fright Train where we have like all the core pillars done, and we even have some of most of the secondary mechanics done, and then we just like see the branches intertwine, and it's kind of magical.
Yeah, you really take a lot of time like figure out which seed to pick, because if you start with a rotten seed, then it's like really hard to make it grow nicely. But on your point of friction, I think while in Kaput Mortem it was more like abrasive towards general public, I think with Fright Train we're going much more towards a friction that is palpable to most people.
Yeah.
Like maybe you could talk about your inspirations for the.
Okay, so like the core thing about Freight Train. So okay, just preface something like we always have like a creative director on the project. Like for Caput Mortem, it was Gab. For Freight Train, it's me. For Born of Bread, it was like sort of me, sort of him, you know. But for Freight Train, it's more like I'm the creative director behind
It's his
it.
baby.
It's my baby. And so yeah, and what I really like about Freight Train is that, and the core design behind it, is I'm trying to introduce some hardcore mechanics to casual audiences. So basically, like the inventory system, it's sort of like DayZ, right? So you have like the inventory, you pick it up, you have it in slots, and you have to drag it in your hand and do stuff like that. But I'm always trying, and reloading the bullets is like a, you know, in DayZ it's kind of a pain in the ass, and it's designed that way so you're vulnerable and stuff.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to have it more enjoyable, yeah, enjoyable for casual audiences. So some of the mechanics are like DayZ inspired, so like the reloading, but it's easier. There's just one button that loads the mag, but you still have to pull it out, and you still have to like put it back in and stuff like that. And the inventory is like it's one of these systems that are like just it's a hardcore mechanic that I'm simplifying for casual audiences, trying to get them to enjoy, and maybe one day they'll see, oh yeah, I like that, maybe I'm gonna go even deeper and start liking more hardcore stuff, because I play hardcore games a lot. So,
do you find yourself like sort of visualizing a slider where on one side it's so on one side it's frustration, and on one side it's like I can't think of the right word, where you it's easy to play with accessibility, like accessible and frustration, and then you're trying to find the middle ground, or like you would replace accessible with for the particular thing you're trying to give the player to feel, like emotion wise, would be the emotion. So you've got frustration on one end, and you've got like tension, and you're trying to make it as tense as possible. It's almost like two sliders, actually. I don't know what I'm talking about. You're trying to make it as tense as possible, but as least frustrating as possible. That metaphor fell on its head very quickly. But no, I completely get where you're coming from.
But I think,
yeah,
I think you got it.
Yeah. And one thing which I didn't write down beforehand, but I'm really interested in the art of your games as well, even though it's not necessarily design, is that you mentioned right at the start that you like both horror and cutesy art. Is that why you've made a horror game with like what looks like a felt dog as the main character?
Yeah. yeah. We felt like trying to marry like both sides, like
the worlds are colliding.
Yeah, because on one hand, it's there's like both like personal reasons and technical reasons. On one hand, it's fun. It's also like it makes the game stand apart. Also, instead of like using Mixamo realistic characters, you know, especially in the survival horror genre. Because we're going for a more B-movie Resident Evil 4 vibe, so that wasn't too much out of place, having those kind of characters. Also, we felt like going in the same route as Crow Country did with their character models, where they're sanctioned off, but still like Crow Country has a pixelated post-process thingy, but at the same time, you can tell they're like high poly sections. Yeah. Because that was not only efficient on our side to make a bunch of characters and rig them and everything in a fast manner, but it also enabled us to have like limb targeting systems and like dismemberment, and use those systems fairly easily compared to like a fully one skin model, which would be like really hard to.
Yeah, it's more intuitive. Just you see like the big blob, you shoot it and it blows up. It just makes sense. It's
fun
a
as
it's
well.
a way of introducing like it's more of it's more complex mechanics that are simpler in that same sense. Yeah.
Awesome. One thing, I mean, we you talked about the development of Kaput Mortem being shorter than maybe it looks like from the outside. Is it looking more like there isn't I'm not asking for a release date of Freight Train because I assume you guys maybe don't even know that yourselves yet. But is the development time shaping up to be sort of similar? Do you feel like, from an outside perspective, I was like sort of when you announced Freight Train and was seeing gameplay immediately, I got happy. I was happy because it felt like, from an outside perspective, you've hit your stride and you like are very comfortable with development and you know what you're doing, you know what you want to make, and you're gonna have like a very consistent cadence. Unless after this game you decide to make another massive RPG. I'm not sure though.
No way.
No, actually, with Nick's metaphor of the plant growing, the game scope has like increased a bit more than what we originally wanted, but it's gonna be like a similar timeline to Caput Mortem, maybe like a couple months more.
Yeah, we can't really get too much into it, just
just in case.
just and stuff. But shorter games.
Yeah, we do after Freight Train, we do want to make an even like actual really small scope thing.
It's just so hard. It's just so hard to commit to doing a small thing. When you're designing, you're just like, oh, it's so fun. Like you could do this and that, and then it just like keeps growing, and then it goes super wide, and then it extends the timeline way too much.
'Cause, it's in part like something we both feel like we need to make, and also like since we don't have like a massive hit, we figured that our best strategy going forward would be to build ourselves a backlog of games, you know, like a couple of small, either small successes or just even mediocre successes. It's all like a stream of money that can help us make more games.
Yeah, I mean that
instead of like banking on like the huge game.
Yeah, that makes complete sense. Like from like different I know from different publishers' perspectives who are maybe not like I spoke to the developer of from Kaizen Gameworks who worked on Promised Mascot Agency, and he said the same thing. Like a lot of publishers are like very cash poor, and so what they rely on is making small deals and banking on the quality of the products, as well as the marketability of the product. Because if you have like a overwhelmingly positive game on Steam, even if it doesn't sell super well, like that is a real like stream of income to have in your backlog. As like, you know, there's Steam sales, especially if your game is like, you know, either under the, I don't know what it will be in Canada, but for in the UK we have like under £4, under £7. If it's on sale, then they'll keep cropping up, players will hover over it and see it's overwhelmingly positive. And yeah, so like that's the thing. And you guys, as you seem to have a knack for making high quality games, what seems to be very fast now, which is great. What has led to like making games so quickly? Because even developers that I've seen who have got a few games under the belt at this point struggle to make a game as quick as you guys. Is it just experience? Have you actively tried to streamline you know, your flow through making stuff as much as possible, or is it mainly just scoping that's made you so quick?
Experience is a big part for sure.
Yeah. I think like we know how to work with each other, but I think like the first step is like to make wise decisions first, both technical and design wise. Like with Freight Train, we knew we had like one environment was the train, and then like each car has its own theming, but there's not like, you don't go outside the train. Like you can roll around the train, but like there's not like a mission that takes place in a base on like another part of the continent or whatever. It's like it's a train, so I make modular assets that I can reuse and that I can make look good. Same thing with, as I talked about the characters, like the art style is the like purposeful decision to make it feasible to have a cast of characters and a cast of monsters. And then it's also like we need to make games fast because that's the way we can earn a living.
Yeah,
it's like I'm sure we would take a much longer time if we had like a million seller game behind us.
Yeah.
But for now, it's like we want to keep making these. If we want to keep making games and we want to keep earning a living, we need to make them. So
I think our biggest asset compared to the competition, competition really, compared to other studios, right, is that the fact that, yes, we're a two-man team, but we're engaged. So we live together, and our workstations are in front of each other. We're always talking about our games. We're always like pseudo designing stuff, and at every step, it's almost like the work never stops, which sounds bad, but is a great thing for us because we love it.
Yeah, no, that's the thing.
We're really direct with each other, also.
Yeah, well, that is also good as well. Like I couldn't imagine making a game with my partner. And I'm not going to go into it, but I just don't know if it would be a good idea.
It's not for everyone.
But that's the thing. Like one thing, because I teach at university as well, like the same game development course, which I did every now and again. And I think one thing which people sort of underestimate is almost the requirement for that hunger, which you guys have, in order to be not even hunger, just like, because that's the thing. Like to go back to what you were talking about, crunch. Crunch is obviously bad. It is not good. But there's like a spectrum, I suppose, because like for me, I'd occasionally like working like the extra couple of hours because that's just the way my brain works. That's the way it's either been developed or whatever. And to have that hunger and desire to create an experience which is like in the interactive medium of making games is something that's so important to, at this point anyway, survive in the indie space. So yeah, I mean, you could tell that you guys have it 100%. Yeah.
Because personally, I've had very few hobbies. It's always been like make something, whether it's comics or small projects.
Yeah.
So it's both. Like I've been working on it recently to make set up not barriers. Boundaries, yeah. Set myself boundaries in order to like both physically and mentally stay healthy. But same thing, like especially Nick with Fire Train, which is like his baby. He's like super excited about all the mechanics and emergent things, so that keeps him going.
Yeah.
But yeah, like if you want to make this full time, you definitely like need to be prepared to just consume this. And it's also like it's not everybody who can do it, and I think like everybody needs to just like take a bit of introspection and figure out like if I want to make games, what's the most healthy approach for me. Some people make games part-time and they're awesome. Some people like us make them full-time and we manage to. So I think it's like really personal to everybody.
Yeah, for sure. Like it's great to see that. Yeah, like I said, with me teaching, like some of my students like intending to finish university and get a real job. Like that is their intention because they know that game development isn't something which they could maybe commit to full time. And yeah, I think it's something that everyone should consider, definitely. And it rang true a bit what you said there when you were talking about creating with comics, games, and other things. I don't know if you were like this as a kid, but for some reason, every single hobby that I got into, I immediately wanted to be part of creating whatever that hobby was. Whether it was like I would read Harry Potter for the first time, soon all of a sudden I wanted to write a novel. Like if I read a comic, I wanted to make a comic. It's crazy. So I mean, you pretty much answered this. My question was going to be, do you think it's important for indie developers to design games from the ground up with speed in mind? But the answer is 100% yes, unless you are Team Cherry and you have infinite money to work on Silksong. It's probably a good idea to take to make decisions. And that's the thing as well, like on the flip side of that, I see a lot of times developers caught with either analysis paralysis or being overwhelmed with the idea of making the right decision. I think it's also important to create a structure. Like you said, when you were working on that game for like 2 months and it turned out to be like over ambitious, you create like a structure, an environment where you can make quick failures. Because a lot of the decisions which you guys make now, not effortlessly, but easier than before, is from experience. Did you have you found the answer would probably be less, but yes, but have you found that your decision making at the beginning has become a lot better over time?
It's not comparable at all.
Yeah, it's both like we have a much better understanding of what makes up a big scope game. Even like, you know, with Fright Train, after like discussing and starting working on it, we figured out, okay, that's actually gonna take a bit longer than we first wanted, because we now have that experience. We know, like, okay, we want to make a small campaign, and that requires, you know, writing, cutscenes, custom bits of code,
custom triggers and stuff.
Yeah, and a part of like the core design of Fright Train having like a survival mode in a campaign was that like we can by making the survival mode first, we make sure to have like all the design. Sorry, the dog is being really naughty right now. Like, okay, so
she wants to go down, but she also wants to go up.
Yeah.
It's a tough one.
So yeah, what was I saying? Yeah, so like
designing survival.
Yeah, we're making like all the ground level mechanics, like everything. We make sure that everything works, everything's there, and then afterwards for the campaign, we just have to focus on like a few more puzzles, a few more custom fights, and like the story bits. So that like that was from the ground up a goal of us to make something that people could get more hours worth of, because that was like the main complaint / not complaint that was with Captain Martin was that it was too short. People wanted more. So like we wondered like, okay, what's the best way for us to make a game that people can get a couple of hours worth of playtime, but also for us to have a sane development cycle.
You know? Yes.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good problem to have, people wanting more, I suppose. It's better than people wanting less. Well, yeah, no, it also it makes sense to go down the route of like, branching out and developing the survival side first, because in theory, apart from all the custom elements which would create the campaign and the story and the flow, that should be your core systems finalized at that point, rather than, you know, designing the campaign and then having to make the survival mode retroactively. So yeah, no, that's a very smart thing to do. Is there anything else at all that you would like to talk about regarding the design and the development of Fright Train? We talked about it a lot, and I don't want you to give too much away for people who are highly anticipating it. Speaking while you think, one thing which
I just like the game a lot.
Yeah. Regarding highly anticipation, like the fact that you guys have such like a healthy community from what I've seen on Blue Sky anyway, is really cool to see. Like that's another good thing about making smaller games quicker, is the fact that you can garner that community. And there's many more touch points, like love him or hate him, Jonathan Blow said recently, like during one of his talks, that like the biggest negative, the way that he develops games, is that people forget that he exists 10 years at a time, and because like it was like yeah, it was 9 years between Braid and The Witness, and now it's going to be 10 years between The Witness and his next game. So it's almost like you don't give people the opportunity to forget about you guys, which is cool. But yeah, it's also good that you say the game's good as well.
Yeah, we're really lucky. We have like a fairly small community compared to like maybe other big successes, but like they're so nice, they're so supportive. I think we got really lucky with like there's people that we knew from like the very start of Born of Bread, like when we launched the demo, and they're still sticking around. So like, yeah, I think it's also really, I think it's really important also to like surround yourself with people you like or enjoy, especially when making big projects like that, because you can get inside your own head and like think, that's not good enough, that's not fun. But then you see people reacting super positively, and you're like, oh yeah, that's true. That's actually a cool thing.
Yeah, that's awesome. So just one final question. This is kind of like a catch-all question. If there's anything else that you'd like to talk about, but to sort of like put you down a certain direction, do you have any additional words of wisdom for designers or developers listening, who are maybe at university or wanting to go and start their own indie development journey? What would that be?
Words of wisdom echo into my mind from like way back when, once we started Helltown. I remember watching Indie Game the movie, and I'm pretty sure there's a bit in that, or maybe it was an interview. Yeah. Maybe it's an interview with Edmund McMillan, and he said like, scope down your game, make a small game. Your first game has to be small. Make it small. And once we did Helltown, it was like, oh yeah, that's pretty easy. That was cool. And then we just said like, oh, we can do this. We're rock stars. We're the best. And then there's this huge cycle that was like really difficult, and we made it in the end. Because you can always do what you set out to do, but man, I wish we just started with like Caput Noctem, and then we kept going, growing, and then because it's you just gotta have more projects under your belt to learn stuff. Because some of the stuff it's not just design, right? It's not just design. I remember just like thinking, oh, I know how to design the systems like that. I've seen like games like that. And the truth of the matter is like looking at a rose bush, you're like, you see the rose, right? And you're just like, oh, this is this beautiful mechanic. I know what it's done, what its purpose is. And the fact of the matter is the rose is not the rose bush. Like every branch of the bush is just like this huge complex thing that led up to that rose, and it's super hard growing that bush. So yeah, it's kind of easy when you don't have experience to just assume, oh, I can make a pretty rose, because it's not that easy.
Yeah. What's it called? The curve of like knowledge and confidence. Yeah. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
It's like this. Yeah.
I don't remember the name.
I don't remember either, but yeah, you think you know, and then once you're too comfortable, you don't know anything.
Yeah, because to echo your sentiment, I think that if somebody wants to make something that's like really big, they need to be aware that they should prepare and understand the potential risks or the potential hardships they'll face. Like if you want to commit to a really big thing, you need to know that, well, you might spend years on it and not see a penny from it. You just need to be prepared for that, and like both mentally and whatever else. And if you can make, it's not just scope for smaller games. I think it's also play smaller games. Get comfortable and get yourself knowledgeable on like small indie successes, like play a bunch of, or because I have like a hard time playing stuff, so like I'm very limited in my playtime, but I make sure to like watch every playthrough of like things that get me interested, or like small games, or like hear about player impressions of small games, get really familiar with the whole landscape, because that lets you that puts you in a better headspace of what can I make, what do people want to play, what do I want to make. I think that's also important.
Yeah, because if you just play big open world AAA games, you'll want to make one, and you'll struggle so much.
Yeah, and it's really difficult as well to see, like, just going back to that sort of rose bush analogy, like that's what a AAA game is. It's the all you see are the roses in the rose bush. Whereas if you look at an indie game, you actually see what, like, almost what the minimum viable products representation of what that rose is, and then that's but it could still give you the same feeling. And I also think as well, like, one of the big reasons why the indie boom is just like consistently, not necessarily with money, but in terms of like games coming out, is consistently getting bigger and bigger and bigger. If we ignore the obvious impact Gen AI has had on it, is that like when Undertale came out, that was a big indie game, which was very, very rough and very indie, but got out to a lot of people. And so this was probably, it would have been the first time a lot of people played an indie game before. And then it would be the same with probably more recently Peak, which is why you have these games like RV there yet, and other games come out. Like, it's one of those things where, you know, a lot of people need that inspiration in order to understand, first of all, that something exists. Like, I remember again when I was at university, like, a lot of people, I showed someone an indie game. It was a game called Mini Metro, and they were like, is that a game? Like, is that a thing that actually exists? Like, because it wasn't Red Dead Redemption 2 or something like that. So it's super important, and that's something which I try. One of the entire ethos of the game design library is to try and expose people in very short form ways very quickly. So yeah, hopefully that helps at some point with someone. I don't know. But yeah, if there's nothing else, I feel like I actually understand the enigma, which is your history and your studio, and hopefully people along the way learn something and can take something from this podcast. But yeah, thank you so much, you guys, for joining me.